Marcos was still struggling to find balance in his new reality. It had been a year since he awoke from a coma with the inexplicable ability to speak 3 languages he had never studied: French, Russian, and Arabic. While many considered this an extraordinary gift, for Marcos, it felt like a constant burden. He was no longer the same man he had been before. His life felt like a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. His relationship with his wife, Carolina, was fractured. She tried to support him, but it was clear that the man she had married had changed. "You're so distant now, Marcos. It's like you're here, but your mind is somewhere else," she confided one night. Marcos looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and confusion. He knew she was right. Ever since he woke up, he felt like a stranger to himself. The languages he now mastered seemed to create invisible barriers. Whenever he spoke in French or Russian, Carolina grew uncomfortable, as if those words created a chasm between them. His children, once fascinated, started to avoid him. They couldn't understand why their father murmured phrases in incomprehensible languages, especially at night, when he seemed trapped in dreams that resembled nightmares. You want to know where this story is going, don't you? Then before we continue, if you want to help our channel keep bringing amazing stories, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed it, turn on notifications to find out when new videos are posted. The search for answers consumed Marcos. He had already consulted neurologists, hypnotherapists, and even specialists in past life regression. They all had theories, but none were conclusive. One hypnotherapist suggested that his newfound abilities could be repressed memories or fragments of a past life. Desperate, Marcos agreed to try a regression session. During the process, he vividly described a market in Marrakesh, Morocco, where he negotiated fluently in Arabic. The experience left him shaken. He had never been to Marrakesh, yet the memory was so vivid it felt real. At the same time, the media attention persisted. TV shows and documentaries tried to unravel Marcos's mystery, but for him, every interview was just a reminder that no one had answers. He began avoiding the spotlight, preferring isolation. His home became a silent refuge where he spent hours reading books in the languages he now mastered. It was as if he were trying to understand who he had become. One of the most difficult moments was when Marcos tried to return to work as a civil engineer. He struggled to focus, but the memories of unknown places and constant flashbacks disrupted his routine. Once, while analyzing a project, he began sketching, almost unconsciously, a design that resembled a typical building in Moscow. His colleagues were intrigued, but Marcos felt embarrassed. He couldn't explain where those images came from. The relationship with his family slowly deteriorated. Despite her efforts, Carolina began contemplating separation. "I love you, Marcos, but I don't know how to handle this new version of you. It feels like we're living in different worlds." Her words hit him hard. Marcos didn't blame her. He himself felt disconnected, as if he were living between two universes, belonging fully to neither. One night, alone in the living room, Marcos had another memory flash. This time, he saw himself in a classroom, teaching in French to a group of young students. He could hear their voices, feel the weight of chalk in his hand, as if it were a memory from his own life. But how was that possible? He had never been in a classroom outside of Brazil, let alone as a teacher. The sensation that he had lived another life before the accident haunted him more and more. Determined to help, Carolina suggested he participate in an international study on cases similar to his. Initially hesitant, Marcos eventually agreed. During the sessions, researchers conducted experiments to understand how his brain processed the languages. One discovery stood out. Marcos's brain activity was abnormally intense in areas responsible for language and memory, as if he had activated parts of the brain that usually remain dormant. While fascinating, this did not explain the detailed memories he continued to have of places he had never been. Meanwhile, Marcos faced new emotional challenges. The distance from his family became increasingly evident. In a moment of desperation, he confessed to Carolina, "I feel like I'm not me anymore. It's as if someone else has taken my place." Carolina cried silently, not knowing what to say. She loved Marcos, but she felt she was losing the man she had married. Over time, Marcos decided to change his life. He left his job at the construction company and started working as a freelance translator. His inexplicable knowledge of languages allowed him to find a new source of income, but the emptiness inside him remained. He began traveling across Brazil, searching for quiet places where he could find some peace. During one of these trips, he met a monk in an isolated monastery. The monk, after hearing his story, said something that profoundly marked Marcos. "Perhaps you're living a journey of learning, something beyond understanding. Accept who you are now, without trying to find all the answers." Those words brought some comfort. Marcos began to accept that he might never discover the origin of his abilities or the memories that haunted him. He reconnected with his family, although his relationship with Carolina remained fragile. She, in turn, decided to give it more time before making a definitive decision about their marriage. Today, Marcos lives between two worlds: the present, where he tries to adapt to his new reality, and the past, which continues to surface in enigmatic flashbacks. His case remains a mystery, but he has found some peace in accepting that, even without answers, his story is still being written. Want to know more about this story and many others we still have to share? Then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every day, a new story comes straight from our mysterious archive, filled with tales and accounts we've gathered from various sources. Cases with stories that will give you chills. Also, don't forget to share this video with that friend of yours who loves a good mystery.